You ever wonder who came up with eggs and bunnies to celebrate Easter? Kind of a contradiction in terms, isn't it? I mean, I guess I could Google who did it, but who wants to work that hard? Whoa, all right. Oh, we're doing this now. Okay, all right. And to be honest, I don't really care who came up with it, because there is something just a little bit magical about popping open one of these eggs, am I right? I mean, anything can be in here. A toy, candy, money. And then occasionally, you have the unfortunate luck of finding the empty one. Maybe an empty egg is a better symbol for Easter than a full one. Oh, okay, take the very first Easter morning, all right? We have hindsight as our benefit, but Jesus' disciples, they were so confused of what was going on. They didn't even have a clue. Okay, so Mary Magdalene, she gets to the tomb first, and she goes inside, and what does she see? It's empty. She is completely distressed. So she runs to John and Peter, and they go to the tomb, and what do they see? Empty. Empty is a negative word, isn't it? My stomach is empty. The gas tank is empty. The house, since the kids left, it's empty. Empty just feels like disappointment. And on that very first Easter morning, nobody knew the word empty better than Jesus' followers. They had empty hearts, and they had empty hope.
There's nothing in it.
I got you, buddy. You see, the thing about Jesus, he takes empty things and he fills them. Empty tombs become resurrected miracles. Empty hearts get filled with love, and empty hope overflows with everlasting purpose. Yes, Jesus specializes in empty. Here you go, buddy. Jesus emptied himself for our sake, that we may be filled with love, meant to save the world. I don't know about you, but nowadays, when it seems like we wake up and we are more isolated, alone, empty. But maybe this Easter, between all the eggs and the bunnies and the beans and every other activity, can I ask you a question? Will you allow Jesus to come into your emptiness?
So 2 weeks ago, we started this series on Easter, and we looked at Jesus coming into Jerusalem and what an incredible celebration that was, and how the people celebrated hardcore that Jesus had come because they recognized Jesus had come and he was going to are you guys paying attention, Jonah? Jesus had come to radically change their lives. And they celebrated. And I simply ask you guys, when do you celebrate spiritually? And what we talked about is this idea that the God that came into Jerusalem on that Sunday is the same God that tries to come into our hearts and connect with us on a daily basis. And there are these moments where we catch glimpses of what our life was created to be and who God created us to be. And we feel like, man, this is life. And in those moments, a lot of times we brush those off as feelings, but really it's our spirit inside of us connecting with and celebrating God. And then last week we talked about this idea of just some hard times and how our life is not constant celebration. Our life is not those moments continuously where we feel like this is the life I was created to live, because we live in this fallen world that is corrupted by sin. And so we talked about how do we handle those really just difficult times. And we said the best thing that we can do is follow the example of Jesus connecting with Peter, where he just wanted to hear Peter's heart. And we talked about how we shouldn't be hiding our hurt. We should be sharing our heart. That's what God wants from us. He's big enough to handle all of our emotions, all of our pain, anything that can come our way. God is big enough to handle it. And he wants to hear our hearts. And here's what I love about that. The last 2 weeks, there's a common theme that runs through this. In the good times and in the bad times, no matter where our life falls on the continuum of I'm living the life I was always created to live, or holy cow, what is going on with my life? No matter where we are in that continuum, God is there connecting with us. God is there reaching for our hearts, wanting to have a relationship with us, wanting to be a part of our lives. No matter what situation we find ourselves in, God is there connecting with us in that moment. Have you ever had one of those aha moments? One of those moments that completely changed everything? I've had a couple of those. Like, for example, a less serious one. When I started driving, I'm not sure where I got this, and some of you have heard me say this before, but when I started driving, you drive on the interstate, and there are lanes, and if you go off and you're getting off on an exit, there is a sign that says exit only. And I made sure that if I was just gonna like stop off for gas or I needed a drink and I was gonna get off the interstate and get back on, I did not get off on one of those lanes that said exit only, because there is no entrance. It was an exit only. And it wasn't until I was married to Kirsten that she was like, you are absolutely ridiculous. That just means the lane ends and you can't stay on the interstate. You can still get back on the interstate somewhere else. It was like this aha moment, like my world opened up. I have so many more options now. Like if I have to pee, I don't have to be like, oh, I hope this isn't an exit only exit. I can actually stop and go pee. And then there are some more serious ones. Like I remember, I've got a picture here of a park in Cincinnati. I was dating Kirsten. I'd been dating her for a couple months, and it was May. The school year was about to end, and it was a beautiful night. We had gone on a date, and we're just kind of walking in this park. This is called the Serpentine Wall, and this is the Ohio River, and this wall runs like for a really long time along the Ohio River. And so we walked along this park, and then we went on one of these giant blocks and just sat and talked for a little bit. And I will never forget this. She looked and she said, hey, can I talk to you about something? And I was like, yes. And inside I was terrified because I was hoping this was not going to be one of those, we need to talk, right? And I was like, sure, you can talk to me about something. And she was like, you know, the school year is coming to a close, and we are about to head home for the summer. She was heading to Bloomington. I was headed to Plainfield, which wasn't super far away, but we were both going to our own homes. And she was like, and I'm like, oh no, here it comes. And she was like, so, like, are we ever going to be officially dating? And in that moment, I was like, okay, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. So you have to understand something about me when I started dating Kirsten. I was not a good dater. Like, I just didn't know the proper way to go about things, the proper way to do things. I'm super duper awkward, and just, I'm not sure why she stuck with me, because I had no idea what I was doing in the world of dating, right? And so she said, are we gonna be official? And in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, we've been official for like 2 months. And I'm like, and like there's these questions and light bulbs going off, and I'm like, aren't we official? And she's like, no, CJ, like you have to have the conversation to say, hey, we are officially dating, we are exclusive. And in this moment, I realized, oh my goodness, like, okay, first of all, we're not official. Holy cow, like we need to fix this immediately. And I don't know that I asked her the right way. I was just like, yeah, we're official. Thought we had been for a long time, like let's be official. Second of all, like she had been keeping her options open, and I'm just lucky another guy didn't come along that asked her out and swept her off her feet. But I had this aha moment where I was like, oh, oh man, like, I need to have this conversation. Like, we need to be official. Like, this needs to happen. But I also had this other aha moment in this moment. Like, one was like, I'm super embarrassed. I don't know what I'm doing. I needed to have this conversation and I didn't. But the other one was like, Kirsten thinks that she has a future with me. I am pumped about this. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait. And so I was like, yeah, we're going to be official. And of course, we got married. So yes, we were official. It was very good. But have you ever had one of those, you what? I didn't hear you. W rings? Wedding rings. Yes, W rings. Sorry. I was totally confused. Yes. I don't understand the lingo, apparently. But that's okay, because, yeah. All right. So have you ever had one of those aha moments? Here's what happens. Aha moments, whether they are silly, like you actually can get off at an exit only, or whether they are more serious, like this person wants a future with you and this is going to radically change everything. They tend to change your life. Aha moments tend to change your life. And as we celebrate Easter, I want to take a look at one more interaction that Jesus had with one of his followers. One more interaction where he had an interaction, and it was an aha moment for Mary. So we got to set the scene, though, first. Before we get into Jesus' interaction with Mary, we have to kind of go back. And instead of reading a whole bunch of verses off the screen, I'm just going to tell you what happened, if that's okay. I hope that's all right. And so Jesus is dead. He's in the grave. And Mary Magdalene, Mary Jesus' mom, and a few other women go to the tomb to bring spices. The whole reason they went to the tomb that Sunday morning, the morning we know is Easter resurrection morning, the whole reason they went to was simply to bring spices so that Jesus didn't start stinking. That was the whole reason they went to the tomb. And so they're on their way to the tomb, and you can imagine how difficult this must be. That the man that they have followed is gone. Like, their lives have taken this drastic turn. Things are never going to be the same. Are you paying attention, Ashton, Jonah, Georgia? Things are never going to be the same. And they are trying to figure out what's next for them. And so they go to this tomb, and on the way there is this. Now keep in mind, they're already upset, but there is this massive, the book of Matthew says, there is a massive earthquake. An earthquake like you have never experienced before in your life. And everything goes crazy. And it says that this angel came down and he rolls away the stone. Now, we picture angels as these creatures that, like, if we saw an angel, we would be like, that is awesome. And we would listen to what they said, and we would be like, dude, I just saw an angel. But in reality, angels are terrifying. They're so terrifying that the Gospels say, the Gospels, the books that tell the story of Jesus, the Gospels say that the hardened Roman guards that were guarding the tomb, the Roman soldiers who have seen countless atrocities, they tremble and become like dead men. All right, so put yourself in Mary, and the other women's situation. Your leader has died. You are on the way to the tomb to make sure that he doesn't stink, because you just want what's best for him. On the way there, the entire ground starts shaking. And you're like, haven't we had enough? And you get to the tomb, and the soldiers that killed Jesus, that are terrifying to the people in this town, are dead. Well, they're not dead. They just are passed out, and it's like they're dead. And so you can picture Mary walking up, and like they've seen an earthquake, and now they walk up to the tomb, and there's these dead-looking, hardened Roman soldiers, and like, and this is where my imagination gets the best of me. Like, you know, they walk up, and I wonder if they were like, all right, well, I'll just step around you here, and we'll just go on this way, right? And they walk around these guys, and they go to the tomb, and they find the stone rolled away, and it's empty. And this angel comes down, again, terrifying angel. They don't know what's going on. And this angel says, he's not here, he's risen. Now, we look at this with hindsight. We recognize that risen means Jesus is alive. In their minds, that was not a possibility. In their minds, risen did not mean Jesus is back alive, because they saw Jesus die. And nobody comes back to life except Lazarus, who Jesus brought back to life. So if Jesus is dead, he can't bring people back to life. This is not a possibility in their minds. They have no idea what's going on. They just know he's gone. He's not here. This weird, crazy creature says that he's risen, he's gone, we don't know what to do. And so what they do is they run back to the disciples and they say, hey, Jesus is gone. We don't know what happened to him. He's just gone. And you have to picture just the sheer terror in their voice. This wasn't like they run back, they're like, hey, Peter, Jesus is gone. I mean, this is like screaming and yelling and confusion and chaos. And I imagine the disciples were like, whoa, hold on, slow down. What's going on? Everybody stop. Nobody needs to talk all at once. Let's figure this out. And Peter and John take off and they sprint to the tomb. And we assume, based on what we're about to read, that Mary followed Peter and John to the tomb. Peter and John get there. They look inside the tomb. Mary follows along, and she's running to the tomb, and she comes up to the tomb. And then you know what happens? Things are so crazy. Things are so hectic, so distraught, that Peter and John, I'm guessing, they have no idea what to do. They don't know what to do with this information. They don't know what to do with this experience of finding the tomb empty. They get to talk to an angel as well. It's mind overload. And so you know what they do? The Gospels say the disciples go home. And then, in the very next sentence, it says this: Mary was alone at the tomb. So they were so distraught that they were like, I'm going home. And they didn't worry about Mary. They didn't say, Mary, come on, let's go. Let's go together. They were just like, I'm out. I'm going home. And Mary is left alone at the tomb. And this is where this incredible interaction starts to take place. John chapter 20. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stooped in to look into the tomb. And she saw two angels, again, angels, in white sitting there where the body of Jesus had laid, one at the head and one at the feet. They said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? And she said to them, and you got to hear this voice. Picture the tears, the difficulty of getting this expression out of her mouth. They've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've laid him. Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? And supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you've laid him. I'll take care of him. I'll take him away. And Jesus said one word to her, Mary. That's all it took. That's all it took. One word, her name, Mary. And it was like this incredible aha moment went off for Mary. And she turned to him and she said in Aramaic, Rabboni, which means teacher. And she's so excited. And see, aha moments change everything. This experience where she can't even begin to wrap her head around where Jesus is, and the pain and the tragedy and the frustration and just the sheer magnitude of walking past dead men and experiencing an earthquake, and all of that pales into comparison when Jesus says her name. And she recognizes. She has this aha moment. Jesus isn't dead. Jesus isn't dead. Nothing is like I thought it was. And then I love what Jesus says to Mary, because in our aha moments, we don't just have a realization, but it speaks to our future. And in this aha moment for Mary, Jesus speaks to her future. He says this, do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Lord, and that he has said these things to her. Now you got to understand this aha moment and speaking into the future of what Mary's future looked like. You have to understand the culture that Mary lived in. Mary lived in this culture in biblical times where women were second-class citizens. They were ignored. They weren't important. They were afterthoughts. But Jesus, being Jesus, he continually raises the level of people that feel like afterthoughts. Jesus, when he rose from the dead, could have shown up to the 12 men that followed him for 3 years, which he did eventually. He could have showed up to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the religious leaders that put him to death. He could have showed up to the Roman ruler of the day. He could have showed up to the elite and the rich and the powerful. But you know who he showed up to first? The afterthoughts. The woman. And he speaks to her future. Look at this incredible future that he says to her. He says to her, Mary, you go. You tell the 12 men that have been following me for 3 years. He says, Mary, we have a future together. We are going to go and we are going to change the world together. But it starts with you. It starts with you, the one that feels like an afterthought. And Jesus continually raises the level of people that don't feel good enough. I don't know if you've ever had a more serious aha moment where you look at your future. But I'm willing to bet that some of you sitting in here right now don't feel good enough. I'm willing to bet some of you sitting in here right now feel like the afterthoughts. I'm willing to bet that when you think about the future that Jesus has for you, you think, well, Jesus has a future for that guy, but not me. I'm just CJ. I'm just fill in the blank. And see, the aha moment is that Jesus shows up and he says, no, you're not just. Just is not the word that I would use to describe you. You are powerful and useful and valuable, and I've got a future, and we are going to go and we are going to change the world together. I created you to live a life full of purpose and meaning that changes the lives of people around you. Here's what's cool. When we begin to latch on to the aha moments in our life, and when we begin to recognize that even when we feel less than, God views us as more than and useful, is that we go out and in our aha moments, we change other people's lives. And see, when we go out and we change other people's lives and we recognize that we have a future and we are useful and we can spread God's love and we can show other people that they also have a future, what happens is other people begin to have aha moments as well. Other people begin to recognize that, man, I really feel not very valuable, but this person is telling me that God has a future for me. And our aha moments turn into aha moments for other people. And I can guarantee that you have interactions with people on a daily basis that feel less than. That you have interactions with people on a daily basis that Jesus wants to reach into their hearts and say, no, you're not less than. No. I came and I died for you. You're valuable and you have a future and you have a purpose. You see, when we have these aha moments, they change the direction of our lives. I was thinking about dating Kirsten and that moment sitting on the Serpentine Wall in Cincinnati and going from there to where we are now, where we have 4 incredible children and this life together. And I thought, wow, like how lucky am I? And just the giant leap to get from there to here. And that's the beauty of aha moments. That when we allow God to use us, we look back at our lives and we say, wow, I was here and God has taken me here. And it's incredible. And it's powerful. And so, guys, tonight, I simply want to leave you with this. I simply want to leave you with, as we celebrate Easter, Jesus died for you. Not because he had to, not because you guilted him into it because of your sin, not because you were so horrible and awful. No, he died for you because he said, right there, I'm doing everything I can for him. I'm doing everything I can for her. I'm going because there's a future. Guys, I hope that you will experience the aha moment that God has for you this week. And I hope that you will go out and you will express to someone else this week that they have a future, that you believe in them and that God believes in them, and that God wants them, that they are valuable. And so the practical challenge this week is simply this. Maybe for you, you are the person that says, I'm less than. And I would encourage you to have an honest conversation with God and allow him to speak to your heart and express to you how truly valuable you are. Maybe for you, there's some people in your lives that you know feel less than. And I want to encourage you this week as a practical challenge just to go express to them that you believe in them, that God believes in them, that they have a future, and that they are valuable. And try to be that aha moment for them and allow God to use you in their lives. Let me pray for you. God, thank you so much for tonight.